on this computer.
Hi, we're here today with Alex Segura, writer of comics, novels, and a bunch of other stuff, I believe. Yeah? And
Yeah.
sure. And he's joining us from somewhere else in New York City, just like we are somewhere else in New York City.
That would be, I think that's 2 interviews in a row that the person was from New York.
From New York. That's a record for us, yeah. So,
It's a popular place. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thanks for agreeing to talk to us.
Yes, thank you. So
Yeah, of
how
course.
it usually works is I won't say we because it's not we, it's me. I come across something that I'm really enjoying, and I say, I really would love to talk to this creator to see what they're doing, and this is what led me to you. And
Thank you.
So this,
Thanks. Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah.
we're working for the big two at the same time. So I guess my first question is definitely about this. The question is so interrelated right now in that Justice League Unlimited universe. When you guys are writing, are you all planning those? There's like 4 or 5 titles that are connected to that right now. Are you planning that together?
I mean, we're definitely talking to each other. I know I definitely spoke to Chris Cantwell because he's doing the Challengers book, writing it. And if you've read the first issue of The Question, it ties in directly with the Challengers of the Unknown in a kind of an unexpected way. And I've chatted with Mark Waid just about bigger picture stuff, like where things fit and how things click. You see The Question show up in Justice League Unlimited, and a lot of it, like a lot of the traffic is run by our editors, the amazing Paul Kaminsky and Jillian Grant and the whole team. But yeah, we chit chat. It helps that we've all kind of known each other in some way over the years. So I won't hesitate to like shoot Mark an email and ask a question or vice versa. So that's been really comfortable.
Is there anything you can't do? Like you want to do this and you can't because of the bigger story?
I mean, I think little notes always come through, but it's less of an edict, like, oh, don't you dare do that, and more, hey, they're doing this over here, so this kind of conflicts, so maybe find a different way to do what you still wanted to do thematically.
Right.
So yeah, I think the sandbox is pretty big that we're playing in, and I think the ability to tell this very noir story with Renee has also surprised some people because it's not as grounded as I think people came in expecting it to be.
Right.
Who's your artist on the book again? I'm sorry.
Kian Torme, who's amazing, and just
Right. I mean, we haven't seen the connectivity of a DC story like this in a long time, except if it's Batman. So we know how all the Batmans connect.
Yeah.
The 17,000 Batman titles connect. So Brian's not reading Justice League Unlimited right now. I'm a huge Justice League Unlimited fan.
Oh yeah, it's good.
So just to give people a backstory, the Question is the head of security on the Watchtower.
Yes, and so as we start issue 1 of The Question along the Watchtower, we find Renee is kind of at an impasse. She's no longer commissioner of Gotham, of the GCPD. She's wondering what her next steps are, and then Batman shows up in her apartment and says, we need your help. Something's wrong with the Watchtower. We're not sure what it is. We need someone to kind of keep us, the heroes who are out here, having built this community, keep us safe while we do the things we need to do. And she's hesitant at first, but she takes the gig and then is saddled with a team of people that she didn't hire, which is a very relatable thing if you've ever been brought into a new job. And it's really a who's who of like DC heroes that I love. Absolutely. But yeah, Animal Man, the 2 Blue Beetles, and of course, Batwoman, Kate Kane. And so there's a lot of baggage. Kate and Renee have history.
Yeah.
There's a lot of doubt from Renee because she's not sure she's really up to this task, and she's not really sure why she was brought in. Like, if Batman can't figure something out, how am I going to figure this out? There's a lot of pressure there. And immediately on day 1, she's face to face against a pretty powerful villain, and you get a nice peek at the day-to-day of the Watchtower, which has been a lot of fun writing and adding to the mythos of the Watchtower, like the menagerie, which is where a very Fortress of Solitude type place where they keep all the animals that they've seen in their travels, the Justice League has seen. You get to see the Promenade and Nightshade's Bar. So it's been really fun in terms of just world building and playing with these characters that I don't think a lot of people expected Renee to be interacting with.
No, and I think that this is the series that's going to push the Question forward.
I hope so. Yeah.
It's been really good, and like I love how you said grounded because the Justice League Unlimited is just such a huge. It's got to be a huge thing to undertake for Mark Waid. All of these,
Oh yeah.
and now you have the Challengers, which is also grounded, and you have the Question, which is really the day to day. You're seeing the day to day workings of this
Yeah.
huge superhero conglomerate, and there's actually people behind the scenes who have to help it keep run. And I think I'm really enjoying everything
Thank you.
relating to them, but really enjoying the Question it's been fantastic.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Deep Space Nine influences are lost on anyone. Like it's very much
Yes.
we're on this space station and these are the things. This is how this works. Like there's a sick bay, there's a security area, there's a big kind of promenade where all the heroes are mingling about, and it feels very vibrant and alive. Because I mean, if you're given these concepts, why not play with them? Like, of course, Mark's going to tell the big picture superhero adventures, but stuff happens on the base too, and I think it's good that we have the room to play and talk about it.
Now it's 6 issues, correct? It's a 6 issue.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's a 6 issue limited series, and it's
Yeah, issue 5 comes out next week.
Yep, I am up to date on where I am with
You're
that.
on it.
Again, it's one of those ones where you can't get behind with this because there's so many comics connecting into it. You have to really keep up every month with the ones that come out. So you don't. I get lost. Like I'm lost with Absolute right now. I'm way behind, and I have no idea what's going on with the.
You got to catch up. Yeah, it's good.
I got to catch up at some point. But
yeah, I mean, Absolute Wonder Woman is like probably my favorite book coming out.
I think it's the best book. I think the 2 best books right now in comic books are Absolute Wonder Woman and Ultimate Spider-Man.
I would not disagree with that in terms of like big 2 comics. Yeah. I love Ultimate Spider-Man.
Ultimate Spider-Man is so much better than I ever could have expected it to be.
And I think the reason the Absolute books and I think the Ultimate books are resonating so well is that the stakes are there. Like you don't know what's going to happen, and and characters could die, things could be changed, and I think that's a really important lesson. I think for comics overall.
Is it good or bad that it's not the DC and Marvel universe proper? I guess that it's these, these other universes. It's not really an Elseworld. It's
Kind of an Elseworlds, though.
You're building a universe. Is that good or bad that's?
As I get older, I care about that less. For me, if it's a good story, like it doesn't negate anything that came. Like when I'm reading it, it's happening. You know what I mean? Like, so I worry less about continuity and more about consistency. Like, does this feel like Batman? And Absolute Batman definitely feels like Batman. Does this feel like Wonder Woman? 100%. So, and even now, when there's been so many changes to continuity and canon, it's up to the writer to cherry pick. Well, what's the stuff that counts for me that's going to move the story forward and make it work? And that's kind of what I do with the Question. Like, what are the things that I think are elemental to Renee that will make this feel like a Renee story? And then you hope it lands.
And did you were you a fan of the Question before? Did you follow the Denny O'Neil series and?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Question's probably my favorite DC character, and that includes Vic Sage and Renee. I love. I think when we announced the book, I was like, Denny and Greg are on my Mount Rushmore of not just Question writers, but just pure writers with the way they approach story and just their track record. So I went back and reread Denny's Question run with Dennis Cowan and obviously Greg's stuff. The Batwoman with J.H. Williams, which I think is just beautiful, just a beautiful piece of work. And
was that
52?
That was the new 52 Batwoman series, right?
Yeah, the series that ran in Detective. Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, just beautiful. And then of course what Greg was doing with Vic and Renee in 52. So a lot of that was very. You'll see echoes of that in next week's issue, and I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll see just kind of where I think it all fits together. And it was definitely Greg's take on Renee was very influential. So and Gotham Central, of course. Yeah,
they approach you with that, or they come to you to write the Question, or you
it's funny because I had pitched something to Paul, my editor, a while ago, and I think for whatever reason the timing wasn't right. And then he came back to me, I think when they were getting the all-in stuff together, and he was like, actually, this would fit here. If you can come up with a way to do your story on the Watchtower. And I said, of course, I will do that. I'm happy to do that because, this has been just a dream project, just not only writing Renee, but, I'm a huge fan of Grant Morrison's Animal Man. Obviously, Jaime Reyes is close to my heart, but I also really love the Ted Kord Blue Beetle. I think he's really underrated. I think he can be... Yeah, underused. He can be very funny. He's great at comic relief, but he's also a very smart and capable hero. So I think I tried to reflect that as much as I could. Like he does have moments of, I think there's a moment where he's singing like "This is how we do it," or like he's funny. He's like, he's not without humor, but he's also very capable. He's very smart and very skilled, and so I wanted to kind of strike that balance. And Buddy's a dad, and I love Batwoman. I think Batwoman's a really great character that deserves more airtime.
Me too. I she's one of my favorite underrated characters of DC Universe. I think. I really enjoy it. I for some reason I'm just drawn to that character a lot. I love
it's
it.
a beautiful costume design. I think what Greg and Jay,
it could be something as simple as
but if that's part of it. But I think it's also like what Greg and JH did with that origin story and how she was introduced into 52. Like she's such a well thought out character.
Yeah, it's really, really good. That series was great.
Now, can you use anyone you want in this series? Are you allowed to pick characters? Like, you pick Animal to be in the series, or?
I did. I got to pick the roster. I mean, I obviously had to run it by editorial, and that's really where the buck stops. Like, if there have been moments where I'm like, oh, let's show such and such a character, and they'll say, well, they're over here now, so they can't be on the Watchtower. So it's really a logistical thing. It's not like, oh, you can't you can't do that. It's more, does it make sense to do that?
Right.
So where's Booster Gold?
Not there.
I think they're saving him.
No, but it's for me, every time I see the Bubito from the I love that 1990s Justice League series.
Oh yeah,
I love that series. Where's Booster Gold? What's he? And I know they have plans for Booster Gold.
Yeah, there's something in the works.
Something's going on. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for Brother Power the Geek. Where is he?
He might be on the Watchtower somewhere. I think
he's got to be in there.
Every single person we interview, he asked. That's his big brother. Every single person we interviewed, this is what.
That's all.
There's some cool like little cameos. If you look at the panels, like the group shots and all along the Watchtower, there's some fun little deep cuts. I think we snuck in Argus, like.
Oh, good.
That Flash hero. And
Prez isn't there. You don't have Prez there yet.
Prez, the teenage president.
No, I don't know. I mean, he might be in one of the crowd scenes, but definitely like the Heckler was there at one point. Yeah. So
nice.
I mean, the series have been fantastic. So, what's next for you after the 6-issue series? Do you have anything lined up with?
Yeah, I think we can
relating to this
here.
Yeah.
You
can talk about.
Nothing I can talk about yet. I mean, I'd love to do more, and I think we're chatting about maybe doing more stuff, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Yeah. We also have 2 more issues to go, so I think people will be surprised and happy to see how it concludes, and hopefully people dig it. I think the response has been really gratifying.
Because I think it's really working with the Justice League Unlimited and these other stories around it. So once your challenge is 6 and question is 6, once those end, I would hope that they have other ones that we're gonna spotlight other characters that we haven't seen in a while. I guess that's what.
Yeah, I mean that's more a question for DC, but I think
they don't take my calls. So
I'm really gratified that people like fans of Renee who've loved Renee as like a grounded street level hero. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was really a nice benefit was I did a 3-part Renee story in Brave and the Bold right before the question book started. So by the time, I was able to tee up a lot of plots, well, not a lot of plots, but there's one specific plot thread that I got questions about when I wrote that 3-parter that will get resolved in next week's issue. That I think people, like a very small subset of Renee's fans, were asking me about it, and I'll be very happy once it's resolved and I can say, here it is.
I mean, it's really been really enjoying it.
Thank you.
You recently interviewed Matthew Rosenberg on here.
Oh yeah,
he was actually not like less than a month ago, right? I think
it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we're good friends. Yeah,
we got into a really deep conversation about Archie team ups.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Now, you worked with him on the Ramones comic, right?
Yeah, and the B-52s.
Right, and the B-52s, right. Now,
and the Archie's book, yeah.
And you did Archie and Kiss, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. You're an old school Kiss fan, or
I wouldn't say I'm an old school Kiss,
or do you just think it would be funny?
I thought it would just. I'll just be honest. I wasn't like a hardcore Kiss fan, but I knew enough to like enjoy the adventure of it and make them comic book characters, which is kind of what made it fun.
Right. I don't have. Believe me, I don't have Kiss questions for you.
No,
that's what you're worried about.
I'll do the best I can.
We have comic questions.
The only question I ever have about Kiss is when can I get the Blu-ray of Kiss versus the Phantom in the Park? I don't think
I don't know. That sounds like a Gene Simmons question.
Now,
Though I know we did it.
He definitely
did
will take my calls.
Yeah, we definitely did have some.
On the book, do you work with Kiss when you're doing that Archie book?
Yeah, Gene and Paul read every aspect of it. They read the scripts. I know Gene in particular read the scripts, and his notes were very minimal, like "this is great" or "keep up the good work." But he was reading it, and he definitely saw the art as it came in and signed off on the issues before they went to bed. And he was a very active promoter. We did signings at Golden Apple. We did a signing at San Diego Comic-Con. That was a very surreal point in my career for sure.
So it's you with Kiss. It's you sitting with Kiss at a signing?
Yeah, it was me and Dan Parent with Gene and Paul at Golden Apple and in San Diego. So both times it was pretty wild. Yeah.
That's weird.
What did you paint your face as? Who were you?
I don't do that. Yeah. It was, they were in their like regular attire, but Gene was also very gracious, and he was like, "Oh, this is Alex, the writer," and I appreciated that, because obviously I was a nobody. They were there to see Gene and Paul, which they should have been, but he was very gracious about passing people down the line.
Oh, that's awesome. That
yeah,
you get to sit with Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley and talk comics. I guess.
Yeah. I mean, definitely worse ways to spend an hour or two.
Right. And do you have any ideas for any other Archie team ups? Because I was thinking you could do like Archie meets G.G. Allen, and it could be really awful.
I always thought it would be amazing to do Archie meets the Beatles. I think that would be iconic.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could also do Archie meets Taylor Swift, or Betty and Veronica meets Taylor Swift. And
that would be
love that. Yeah, that would be really cool.
That might sell.
That might sell.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but the thing that people don't really recognize with a lot of these crossovers, Archie does them in partnership with the artist. Like they don't just do them like as a one-off public domain type thing where they use their likeness and don't, like, these are all done in partnership. So it's really about the negotiate. Yeah, you have to get the rights and you have to negotiate. So we got close with some other bands that I thought would have been cool, like the Replacements or Talking Heads. Yeah, and then maybe someday Talking Heads would have been great. But the cool thing about the Archie's ongoing book is that every issue featured a different artist. So we had like more modern artists like Churches and Tegan and Sarah, and then older artists, more classic artists like Blondie and the Monkees and things like that. So it was a really fun mix.
Yeah, I'd like to see that Tegan and Sarah issue, actually. I saw
it was cool.
Website, and I would like to check that out if I get a chance.
Yeah.
I like Tegan and Sarah.
So did you meet with B-52s also?
We didn't get to meet with them. They reached out to Dan Parent, the artist, which was funny. And so Dan is I think friends with them, and that was one of the more painless crossovers. There was no drama. It was very easy to get that going.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a lot of things that like Fred Schneider or Kate Pearson would be worried about, like their image to their image, like
right. Yeah. I think the fun part about that one is that we set it in the 80s. So it was very much like prime B-52's era, which is not to minimize. It was more like they just started. So it was them in their prime.
Right.
And we got to tell kind of a retro-y Dan DeCarlo style 80s Archie story.
Nice. Yeah.
So you really could. You could put the Archies with any musician you wanted to.
Well, you could do time travel. Yeah.
But the Archies have been around so long, it doesn't have to be time travel to be direct time. So
no, but Sabrina sends them through time, and that's how they meet these people.
So that's what happened with the Ramones, but I think the Monkees one was a dream sequence. Like Archie gets bonked in the head, and suddenly he's in.
He didn't really meet the Monkees.
No, he dreamt about it.
Well,
I think it's a great idea that they do some stuff like that.
It's amazing.
So we're actually out of order. We usually start by asking you how you got into comic books, but we were just. Me personally was the question. I skipped over that part. I'm sorry, I stepped on Brian. So that's usually where he starts. So how did you get into comic books, and what led you into being a writer for comic books?
My first comic was an Archie Digest. I remember my mom getting it for me at the grocery store, and that really just began like a lifelong relationship with comics. I read Archie for a while, and then it was a digest reprint of Spectacular Spider-Man magazine #2, which was the Green Goblin Ramita Lee story. That is still terrifying. I reread it recently, and Ramita's Norman Osborn is chilling. But I read that, and that's really what kicked the door down in terms of like superhero stuff. So I read that. I read some X-Men stuff, and I was just a lifelong reader. I read a lot of DC stuff, Marvel stuff, indie stuff, and I was a journalism student in college. And at one point, I thought, well, why don't I just blend my journalism stuff with my love of comics? And I started freelancing for places like Newsarama, and this was, I think, 1998. So I was just out of high school, and And then I got a job at Wizard magazine,
Right,
which you guys probably know, but
Oh yeah,
a lot,
yeah.
you know, a
I
lot
have a
of people
stack of
don't.
them somewhere around here. I have a stack
Yeah.
of Wizard. I love Wizard.
Yeah, no, it was a great. I mean, it was a great place to work. I made a lot of friends that I'm still friendly with today, and it was so influential in the industry. Like, if you got a Wizard cover, the copies you sold would go up by 20, 30,000.
Yeah.
It was a huge tastemaker at its peak. And then after that, I started doing publicity and marketing. So I left journalism, which was comic book journalism. So it was like hard hitting journalism. But I moved into marketing and I did publicity at DC Comics and later Archie. But at that point, the writing bug had kind of already struck. So I started writing my own crime novels. And then when I moved to Archie was willing to let me take a shot at writing comics. So I wrote stuff like a few single issue Archie, like classic Archie adventures, and then Archie Meets Kiss. And then it really just grew from there. My novels took off and that became its own like career. And I was blessed enough to start getting work outside of, Archie. I moved on from Archie and I started getting freelance work for Marvel and DC and other places. I wrote a Star Wars novel. And so, yeah, now that's just my gig full time, which is a blessing.
You brought up the novels. I was reading up on Secret Identity and Alter Ego. I haven't read them yet. But they sound really interesting, and I like the idea that they're set within the comic industry at different times.
Yeah.
That one is kind of a soft sequel to the other, sort of, because I noticed there are references that go through the lethal links.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what? Can you tell me some of those? How those novels come about?
Yeah, it all goes back to when I was reading Cavalier and Clay in college, which is the book Michael Chid. It's an amazing novel, but I remember reading it and I was like, wow, I really wish I could read the Escapist comics it's all about the guys that create the Escapist. And eventually they did do that at Dark Horse, but I wanted to read them in the novel. And I just kind of filed that idea away. But you fast forward till around 2020 and I had just finished a 5-novel PI series. I just wrote a Star Wars novel and I was like, well, what is my next thing going to be? And I wanted to set a crime novel in an industry that maybe a lot of people didn't know very well, like comics. And that's when the idea kind of came back. Like, well, what if I'm telling this murder mystery set in comics in the 70s, but you can read the comic the character's creating as you go. So you're reading the novel, you're following Carmen as she tries to solve the murder of her collaborator. And then you're reading pages of the Legendary Links, which is the comic she creates for this company in secret. Nobody knows she has anything to do with it. And so she has to solve the murder to kind of reclaim the character. Alter Ego jumps forward to the present day. And, Secret Identity in 1975 showed you a comic book industry that no longer exists, like one where people aren't thinking about like options or whether it's going to turn into a movie or a video game. It's just very much like, let's go make the donuts and make a comic, and eventually I'll get another job, a real job, and this is just something I'm doing on the side. Alter Ego is the present day where comics are everywhere. They're part of pop culture. Like, if you have a hit comic, it could be, used for movies or anything, TV, what have you. And so a company comes out of the woodwork and announces that they're going to reboot the Links as a big multimedia platform. And they hire this artist, Annie Bustamante, who once was a comic book artist, had a great run, and then just retired and moved into film and became a very successful film director. But at the same time, she has this love for this obscure character that nobody seems to know about, the Legendary Links. And so she's drawing a fan comic, basically, just for fun between projects. And then she gets that note from this new company and they hire her, but she realizes that there's something sinister going on there and that maybe they don't really control this character, that maybe this woman who is claiming to have created the Links in the 70s might have some claim to the character. And so they are related. They live in the same universe, both novels, but my hope is that I know that they can stand alone. You can read them individually, but you can also read them together. And then what we did is we took the comic pages from Secret Identity and expanded them into a full 4-issue graphic novel, which we reprinted for the first time. And so now people can read those lost Links comics for the first time.
It's such a good idea for a book. I really like it. I can't wait to get to them. I'm going to read them soon.
Oh yeah, I hope you like them. Yeah, we definitely leaned into the meta of it all. Like we treated it very seriously. Like especially when we did the reprint of the Links. Like we just said, Jan DeMatteis, one of my writing heroes and just a sweet guy. Yeah. Wrote the intro to the Links, where he wrote it. He basically said like the Links was a huge influence on me as I was writing like Craven's Last Hunt. So, like very much like meta meta, which is, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
So it's funny you bring up one of the things we've done a lot of interviews, and one of the things that always gets us is, as comic book fans, we don't realize that whole option part of it. That's that's become a huge part of comic book writing. That you can, and I believe it was Brian Buccellato was telling us how he has a character that he's optioned like 3 times, and every time he optioned it, he gets paid money to option it. It doesn't go anywhere. You have anything optioned right now?
I do, yeah. I mean, a few things have been optioned over time, but I mean, it's a crapshoot. You cash the check and you're thankful for it that someone likes your idea, but you can't assume like, oh, they've optioned it, now it's going to be a TV show or a movie or what have you. Like, it's there's so many diminishing returns from here to there. So you just take the good, and which is a free check, and then hope for the best, and that's it. Yeah. What matters is the work you created. That's what you pour yourself into.
But that's such a strange thing, because throughout our interviews, we were realizing there are more and more things have been optioned that never go anywhere. So it's just somebody in Hollywood throwing money at comic book creators saying, "Oh, that might work," and it never goes anywhere.
Well, a lot of times they want to get the idea before anybody else can.
Right. And
yeah, some of it is calling dibs. Some of it is like, it's really hard to make a show, especially with the industry changing, like especially recently with the writer's strike and director's strike. And, it's just the industry, I think, is in a particularly strange point right now. So it was already challenging before that. So now it's a little extra challenging, and you just hope that it'll happen. And if it doesn't, that's okay too.
Right. So you can't write something thinking that it's going to get an option, but
no, I think the mistake,
when it does.
Yeah, you're happy when it does. I think I would tell people creatively, it's a mistake to write something in the hopes of it getting optioned. Right. Like, if you're not writing it to be the best comic it can be, you're writing it as something that you will hope to be a screenplay or a movie, then just write a screenplay, because that's probably faster than hoping, 10 other things will happen that are completely out of your control.
Right.
Huh. Yeah. It's so strange to us how that works. Cause
it's strange to me.
Side, you don't know on the other side that you have companies coming to you and optioning your thing, and they hold the option for however many years, and then it comes back to you, and you can option it again if it's
if somebody wants it. Yeah,
it's like free money.
Well, when it happens.
Yeah. But like you said, the idea of hoping that it'll happen is probably defeatist,
right?
Because then you're not going to write it.
Yeah, I mean, the goal should always be to write a great comic, if that's what you're writing, or write a great novel, or write a great short story. Like, not do it in the hopes that someone's going to give you a check for it to make it something else, because then it's a whole different animal.
Sure. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Alan Moore, and he says a lot of stuff like that. The stuff that, like, you write a thing to be a thing. You don't write it in the hopes that it becomes 3 other things,
a bigger thing,
right? Yeah, it's like you're it should be made for this medium. In a sense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because you should be doing it because you like that medium, and you're excited to have it be in that medium. And then if it becomes something else, like, it's probably going to be somebody else driving that boat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and then God knows what you end up with, right?
Yeah. But you got the check, so.
Right. Speaking of things that aren't that big, you worked on Star Wars also.
Yeah. Small
independent film from the 70s. We all know that one.
Yeah.
That thing's still around?
Yeah.
So how is that?
I mean, it's great. It's very thrilling. It's very cool. I mean, I've written in different corners of Star Wars. I wrote a Poe Dameron novel. I written some short stories. Most recently, I wrote The Battle of Jakku, which was a 12-issue series that Marvel published. It was really 3 4-issue miniseries, like in succession, and they each basically told the story between the Battle of Endor and the Battle of Jakku, which was the final battle of the Galactic Civil War. But the difference here is that we've seen the Battle of Jakku from different perspectives, like in the Chuck Wendig novels or different other media, but we've not seen what the core, original trilogy characters, Han, Luke, and Leia, were doing. And so that's interesting, but also we added and we kind of wove in a different villain and a different narrative that had not previously been told. So that was really fun to kind of weave through existing canon and try to add a cinematic chapter to follow up the first 3 movies. That was my kind of guiding light. Like, what if there was another movie? Like, what would that other movie look like, and how would it shape up? And so you kind of see it in those 3 acts. And that was a blast. And I got to work with artists like Leonard Kirk, Stefano Raphael, Jethro Morales, Luke Ross, the great editorial team at Marvel. Like, it was a bi-weekly series. It came out every 2 weeks. So it was definitely like a sprint We had to get a lot of stuff done in the lead up. And so even now, as I'm working on, like, I'm writing the ongoing Star Wars book, which launches in May. And it's going to tie into a free comic book day story. But now I feel like we're almost at like a leisurely pace. I'm writing a script a month. And whereas before it was like, oh, you got to write these, it just, the pace was different. And I think that gave that book its own energy, which was really fun to read. Now that it's done, it's kind of cool to see it all together.
If they give you like a whole backstory where you have to use this, like, I mean, the whole.
I had to pitch. I had to. They gave me the framework, and then I came up with an idea. We went back and forth, talked to story group, kind of tightened it up, and then really just extrapolated from there. You have the springboard, and then you make it into an outline, and then those outline chapters become scripts. But the thing is like stuff changes. Sometimes you change something in a script, and I was like, then 4 issues later, I'm like, well, this is not in the outline anymore. So it's like a lot of like spinning plates.
Yeah.
But that's the job, and that's the fun part.
And you're a Star Wars fan.
I am, yeah. I grew up on Star Wars, and I was a fan of the, who isn't these days, right?
Oh, I would think that's, from people we've talked to, it's a dream of a lot of people to write Star Wars, to be able to write the Star Wars Monthly. A lot of comic book fans and creators are also big Star Wars. As you see right behind us, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. That's
cool.
Because you end up getting paid for what you were doing as a kid when you were playing with action figures. You're like, you make up your own little story with the action figures, and then when you're older, you're like, oh, here, I'm gonna, write that down.
Yeah, it's really happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's a franchise that you think you'd like to work on? Like, you've worked on Star Wars. Is there another sci-fi franchise you think you'd think like, I could really do something with this? Not to jinx anything, of course, but
no, yeah. I mean, I like Star Trek as well. I grew up on Star Trek as well, so I'm a fan of that. All the talk about the Buffy reboot reminded me how much I loved that show when it was on for the first time. And I like Battlestar Galactica as well. So stuff like that is all. I'm a big I'm a sucker for space opera. So
space operas,
aren't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our age, aren't we all? Isn't that like,
I know. It's
our age.
Yeah.
That's what we. Like, I think the age right before us of big westerns, like they loved westerns from there. We grew up with those, those space operas. I can't get enough. Planet of the Apes would be a good one too. No one ever.
Well, Marvel's doing that.
No one ever. No, it's not. Hasn't been. It's been.
Yeah, I never got into Planet of the Apes. I think that was just like a little bit earlier than my time.
Yeah, I grew up with the marathons they used to do on TV.
Same, on Channel 7.
One movie every night.
Oh yeah.
I had an older uncle who got me into Planet Apes. I absolutely love Planet Apes. And no one's done it justice so far. And
so Marvel's not doing Planet of the Apes anymore?
That series ended like a year ago.
Really?
Yeah, they haven't used it. There's Aliens building on Predators being done, but that's
oops.
So usually I do rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Like 5 rapid fire questions. One of them got ruined. Someone asked about it already, even though he knows it's part of the 5 rapid fire questions.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I really don't.
So the first question,
this isn't a bit. I actually have no idea what you
do. Are we not doing the Archies as part of the 5 questions now? Thanks, you ruined it. Yeah. Right.
Now I'm ready.
Who would you like to work with, living or deceased? Any artist
or co-writer
More artist than co-writer.
Oh, I would love to work with Jaime Hernandez. I love Love and Rockets is probably my favorite comic book. I would love to co-write with someone like Keith Giffen, the dearly departed Keith Giffen, who I got to know when I worked at DC, and I thought he was just a fascinating guy. And I just reread the 5 year later Legion stuff that he did, and it's just genius. So
nice guy to us fans too. And I met him a number of times at convention. He was just always very sweet, very sweet guy. Nice guy.
Very self-deprecating, very humble. I thought,
nice to the fans, and not all creators are, but he was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
What character would you like to work on?
I would love to work on Batman or the X-Men.
Okay. Really?
What's your favorite era of X-Men? This is an extension question here.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm a big Claremont head, I have to say. I love the Claremont run, but that also covers a lot of ground. But I think the sweet spot leading up to Inferno, that run with Mark Silvestri,
that's my favorite.
Yeah, just good stuff. Just you don't know what's coming. You don't know what's coming up.
Right. Inferno too was great. I loved Inferno. One of my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it did not treat Madeline Pryor well, but I think it's a great story. Yeah.
Well, who's your favorite X-Men then?
I was a big Cyclops guy as a kid.
Really? Wow, you
yeah.
don't do that a lot.
Not a Wolverine guy. I mean, I like him more now as an adult, but I was definitely a Cyclops guy. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your favorite horror movie?
Ooh.
Oh, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh,
Real original?
Yeah.
number one for me.
Yeah.
Really?
Pretty close to the top for me.
Really?
Nightmare on Elm
It's
Street?
good.
Yeah.
Solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here's the question where
The original, if you think about it.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, we take it for granted now, but if you think about when it came out, you're like, there was nothing like it.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the one that trips everyone up. Who should be the next live action Batman?
Oh, wow. This is funny because when I was younger, back when, Michael Keaton left, I always thought Alec Baldwin of that time would have been a perfect Bruce Wayne / Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But then he did The Shadow and it didn't work for me. Like The Shadow does not work for me. I don't know. I'm not that up to speed on who would be a great actor.
It's
for
your
Batman.
guy. It's who you would want.
Anybody.
I thought John Hamm, maybe if he was a little bit younger, would be perfect.
in person.
You're the second person to say that, and I love that idea.
Yeah, I think he's more of a Bruce Wayne Batman than a Superman. And a lot of people were talking about him as Superman at some point.
He would be a much better Bruce Wayne. He has that sardonic, slightly dark sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. Like the way he would shift from like Don Draper smiling advertising guy to brooding Don Draper, I thought would just be perfect. I think maybe he's a little, I guess if you're doing Dark Knight Returns, it could work.
I guess he is up there.
He is up there now.
Yeah.
So, you know people at DC, get that done.
Yeah, it's that easy.
Just who do you got to call? Call somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them to call John Hamm. Tell them to call John Hamm.
Yeah.
I'll just text everybody. I'll put everyone on a group chat.
So what do you have coming up? Anything you would like to promote coming up?
Yeah, we're finishing up Green Hornet Miss Fury with Henry Barajas, who's co-writing for Dynamite, and with Federico Ceresa on art, which has been a lot of fun, like kind of weaving those two pulp heroes into one story. The question number 5 hits next week, and number 6 hits next month. And Star Wars launches in May, so just a lot of stuff. And then I've got a Daredevil crime novel that's hitting in September.
Oh, cool.
Daredevil, Marvel Daredevil, or
Marvel's Daredevil. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, what about convention? Do you have you doing any appearances coming up?
I'm going to be in Broward later this month for something called the Literary Feast, which is like a Broward Public Library event. I'm also doing New York Comic Con, LA Times Festival of the Book in April, and I'm sure I'm going to and Chattanooga Comic Con in September.
We usually attend New York Comic Con every year.
Yeah, come by my table. I'd love to say hi.
I guess you have to, right? You live in New York. If you're a comic book fan, you have to.
Yeah, it's an easy lift.
I mean, Brian hates it. He gets overwhelmed.
Not a fan.
It's a lot. It is a lot. It's overwhelming.
I've been taking my kids since they were like 8 and 10. So they're in their 20s now. So
wow!
It's like dad-daughter day. We go to the city, and usually something awful happens.
Oh god, yeah. No, I mean it's fun. It's just a lot of people. You have to really like kind of steel yourself, but it's fun. It's a great show.
Now, this is going to be a strange question. So, besides comic books, I have a very large T-shirt collection.
Oh, same.
Is that the Funko Dark Knight shirt that you're wearing under there?
Oh, is it? Yeah. I mean, it's
a Dark Knight. It's a regular.
It's the animated series. Yeah.
That's the animated series.
I have the Funko one of that.
Oh, cool.
Funko did one. I'm like, that looks just like Funko.
This one's from I forget who did it. I think it's like TeePublic or something.
No, I love TeePublic shirts. I mean, as a 50-something-year-old man, I own way more T-shirts than I.
I mean, I don't have to go into an office, and so if I'm not doing a meeting, I'll wear a hoodie and a T-shirt, and that's kind of my uniform.
That's perfect. We're teachers, and we wear.
Oh, nice. Well, thanks for your service. We need you.
Don't thank us.
Definitely
you shouldn't.
But really, thank you for coming on. We really.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
This was
fun.
Hope we cross paths in person. We will definitely stop by your table at New York Comic Con, and if you can get another Archie crossover,
stranger things have happened, and I don't know if you guys ever make it to Royal Collectibles here in Queens, but I go to that shop pretty
All
regularly.
right, so that's a funny one because we've been going to Queen's Comic Party for the last, and we have a friend that we go with, and every time we go, he says the same thing. Let's go to Royal Collectibles too. So
it's a great shop.
We've never been there, and it's been suggested by multiple people.
We'll have to make sure we carve time out for that the next time we go.
We definitely have
really good staff, like very organized, very easy to shop. They have a kids section, which is nice. I can bring my kids; they can kind of look through there, and then I can do my thing. But yeah, it's fun.
Have you ever gone to the museum up there in Queens? The it's like Image. It's like
Museum of the Moving Image. Yeah, that's really good.
That's me and my daughter went to a Queen's Comic Party once, and we went there after. That's a great museum.
Haven't been yet.
I've been telling you.
It's good. It's
really good. But seriously, thank you for being on.
Oh, of course. Yeah, anytime.
Fellow New York guys on here.